All right, everyone. We are back here for some semifinal action here at our 5K Pioneer Showdown, part of the 2024 season 2 of the NRG series. Of course, we are in Chicagoland in beautiful Illinois, beautiful area, lots of good food, and some high stakes Pioneer. Now, I don't know if we have a top 4 bracket here for you, but what I can tell you is that only one Phoenix player advanced. And of course, I believe that is Max Komanowski. And we're going to be watching actually the other side of the bracket. Oh, here we go. Yeah, we got it up here. Pierre Smith, Selesnya Company versus Max Komanowski on Is It Phoenix. We're actually watching the other side of the bracket. We saw a little bit there, game 3. Andrew Wolthuis and his Demir Ninjas versus Charlie Dusterberg, someone we've seen quite a bit of today, made it to the top 4 on Rakdos Transmogrify. So we're going to be diving into that here in just a moment. Of course, one of these players is going to be punching their ticket to the 2024 championship at the last possible opportunity to do so. This is the last event of the last season of the last everything. And, it has to come down to a final 2. So one of these 4 players will be doing so. We're going to find out here in just a little bit who that's going to be. Now, if you're, watching this, you want to support this content, remember our 2024 NRG Championship is going to be happening December 14th and 15th. So, hey Siri, hey Google, set your reminders for December 14th and 15th. You're going to be watching the championship. Get a look at the players qualified. These are the players already qualified. We got Steven Dykeman, Matthew Hoey, Sean Gallagher, Dominic Harvey, May French, Taj Jolly, Kim, and I can't read all these. Justin Brickman, I've already done it. So we got Nick Achu, we've seen today, got Feld in our top 8, Harrison Canford, Garrick Alford, our MVP, Theo Jung, Charles Dusterberg, and Kamari, Frederick, Wesley, and Bob Gulp. Sorry, I didn't read all your names, but
well done, Drake. Well
got to move things along. Thank you. Hey, Corbin, I appreciate it. So, yeah, make sure you're following us so you're notified when we go live. Follow us here on Twitch. Subscribe if you don't want any ads. We're going to be watching quite a bit more Magic left today. And, of course, you're going to be subscribed when you're watching the championship, too. No ads for that. But for the moment, it is time to get down to our, I'd say, spiciest, maybe 2 decks in our Pioneer top 8 here. Demir Ninjas, Rakdos Transmogrify. Maybe strategies we've seen before in different forms, but I mean, not to this level, right?
Well, the whole top 8, right, was full of pretty cool decks. The top 4 is certainly full of cool decks. All 5 colors represented among those decks, by the way. In Transmogrify, look, we've seen a lot of different ways of getting the tracks into play across formats, whether it's like Footsteps of the Goryo, or just doing domain ramp and
Goryo.
That's the
Goryo's Vengeance. It's not the 3-mana one is Footsteps of the Goryo. The Goryo's Vengeance, the 2-mana one.
Yeah, that's the one, huh?
Footsteps is wild. I mean, it works. It still works.
Listen. That actually did used to be a modern card, but yes, thank you. I was thinking of the wrong Goryo.
Spicy.
But yeah, no, we've seen lots of different ways to put Atraxa into play across various formats, and this Transmogrify deck here in Pioneer is one of the more interesting ones because it gets to play just a Rakdos game plan, right? Like a very Jundish way of playing the game, except it has Transmogrify Atraxa at the top end instead of trying to just win with, say, Tarmogoyfs, right? But it, as we've seen in previous rounds from Charlie, it can actually just win a normal game where you just activate Ob Nixilis a bunch until your opponent loses all of their life.
And on the other side here, we got this Ninjas deck, and what a pickup here from Bloombro. You got the Mockingbird giving you more Fairy Miscreants. Yeah, you get to draw more cards, and now you get to do the best thing maybe to do with it, and ninjutsu your clone back to your hand. I mean, that is powerful magic. As here comes Kaido, the 4 of Planeswalker. We've already gotten to look at that one in action already quite a bit, and it just does everything for this deck. 3 relevant modes. Is a 3/4 with Hexproof. Can't even target it once it's in play. Lays some beatdowns, makes emblems. It's just hard to interact with on every axis. Making emblems, having hexproof, ninjutsu as an ability. I mean, all these things very difficult to interact with, and also applies a lot of pressure. So here comes Fable the Mirror Breaker, kind of one of the namesakes of the Rakdos Transmogrify deck. Does a great job setting everything up for Charlie, and really gonna need to have Transmogrify and fast facing down this ninja beatdown that Andrew's put forth thanks to Kaido, Mockingbird, and the Fairy Miscreants that we've assembled thus far. Mockingbird is so sick with Fairy Miscreant too. I mean, like I said, you get to pick it up later and draw cards, and I mean, you can make a bigger knot, whatever. It's so sick.
That's a pretty sweet one for sure. So Charlie hasn't done anything up to this point, just turn 3 Fable, right? So I would assume that means that Charlie is leaning on a Transmogrify type hand instead of a removal type hand, since he is just taking the Miscreant beatdown along with the Kaido here. So I would say that this next turn is likely to be the turn of the game here, right? Does Charlie just have the Transmogrify to get the Atraxa? Is that even good enough when you're facing down Kaido? There's a lot going on right here.
Yeah, and I mean, Kaido already going to work, making some emblems, a lot of mana held up. And we mentioned really one of the ways to fight a resolved Atraxa, kind of being those ways to like tap it, clone it, those kinds of things,
Yeah.
threaten it. We have that available to us, right? We have 4x Brazen Borrower, so you can petty theft it back to hand. And we also have 4x Flood Pits Drowner. So these are 8 different ways in the main deck to really, I'll say, cleanly answer
Mm-hmm.
an onboard Atraxa that you need to get through. Now, of course, all the cards that come with it, like there's a lot of problems that come with a resolved Atraxa, but the point is, this particular aggro deck is not just cold to the 7/7 life-leaking Vigilance body.
No, in fact, I think I'm not going to say it wouldn't be good for Charlie here, but it certainly wouldn't be great. Kaido could still knock it down. You're at 10 life, and then you're just fully operating into letting Andrew spend up to 9 mana if once you like, because that's what you're facing down right now. If you're Charlie, you have access to the mana you have access to, which is with a treasure token and a land up to 5. Whatever you do
Right.
with that 5 mana, Andrew's going to have the opportunity to spend up to 9 mana of his own plus planeswalker activations before you get to take another game action. So you better be very confident in how you spend the mana you have on this turn if you're Charlie.
Yeah, it's going to be Fable number 2. So, I mean, 2 Fables notably good in conjunction, especially once they flip the double reflection. You can start to make as many reflections as you have mana, and that can be a powerful way to close games without Atraxa. But, I mean, as you said, we're spending 5 mana here. Reckoner, Bankbuster, plus a second Fable. I mean, it's impressive, but facing down what Andrew has to work with, I mean, it might just not be enough right now. As here comes
Yep.
the first Flood Pits Drowner, tapping
It
down a
just
token.
shields down, and now you're facing down what Kaido's a 3 naturally, right? So it's 6 in
Yeah.
play. Kaido emblem would make it 7. We have
Yeah,
more
so it's
cubes
already
to come through.
7. We can make
Yeah.
it 8 if we want to. And that's not even to say, with other things going on. And also you still have more turns. Like
Yeah.
that's just this turn. You might not be dead this turn, but what's your plan for next turn? All these tap abilities, Kaido himself, like there's a lot of problems here. Charlie Dusterberg really, like you said, didn't play anything until the first Fable. That just might not be good enough against this Ninjas deck.
Oh. And notice, by the way, Andrew actually had the Flood Pitch Drowner. So even if there was a Transmogrify for Atraxa there, it might not have been good enough. So this is really a precarious situation, I think, if you're Charlie. It's a lot of damage coming in.
It sure is. And I mean, rolling up Kaido, emblem number 2, these ninjas getting very large and a very large attack here. 4 mana still up. No ninjutsu shenanigans. That could have really added a lot to the damage. I think actually we had a kill there if we do have a ninjutsu like Moon Circuit hacker or whatever there.
Mm-hmm.
That's just enough damage to kill right there. So don't have that transparently. Now, not clear what the leftovers are. Is the first Fable going to flip? Got to do the cute little the double suspend counter trick there where you actually do the other one, put 2 counters on the other one. Yeah, cute.
It is fun. It's fun. I've done it. It
You only
feels
have to
good.
mess with one of them. And we discarded one of the Atraxas and a case here. Case of the stashed skeleton. Both hit the bin. First reflection flipped. I mean, Transmogrify is not good enough. What is? There's 2 in hand, and they're just not good enough.
I don't think anything's good enough here for Charlie, to be honest, unless it's a board wipe that also wipes planeswalkers. Like that's actually the real power we've seen out of these aggressive tempo-y type decks over the past 2 days. If you think back to the Boros decks, energy decks of Modern, and now you're seeing kind of the same dynamic play out with Kaido, where having a planeswalker mixed into your creature aggro deck makes it really difficult for people to interact with, right? And a lane where board wipes don't work. Petty theft
and we went for the Transmogrify. We have the petty theft to disrupt that, and that is more than good enough. It's funny, that petty theft could have been used before, after, during, doesn't matter. Everything coming up, Andrew. I mean, every turn of Magic I watch Andrew play, it's like, well, that was good for him. Wow, that was really good for him. Wow, that was good for him. Oh, well, what do you know? He won. So, I mean, crazy stuff here from the Ninjas deck, and we're going to have to start here with Charlie Dusterberg, see what he can even do about this Ninja Menace. A sideboard we've seen quite a few times, and that's because Charlie's done a lot of winning. Back against the wall here, has to keep it going. 3 copies of Go Blake, 2 copies of Cut Down, 2 Damping Sphere, 2 Path to Peril, 2 Urbrask's Forge, 1 Extinction Event, the Companion Gigantha, 1 Obnixilis the Adversary, and Unlicensed Hearse. What do we want against ninjas?
Well, you probably do the same we've seen against all the creature decks he's run into, right? You just load up on removal. So Cut Down, I think, actually doesn't. It can take down a ninjutsu enabler, right? But I don't think it can actually get Kaido itself. So you obviously probably do want Cut Down still, but that's something to keep in mind, is that your removal that can hit Kaido is slightly more limited. And that's going to be something to keep in mind. But if you're Charlie, you just want to bring all the removal in you.
Yeah, the removal going to be big players is just keeping Kaido off the board. But yeah, shame some of these go throats and things like that can't hit planeswalkers. I mean, that is, like you said, such a big part of the problem is hiding on the opponent's turn and such like that, having hexproof from the opponent's turn. Just really can't tag it for removal. All right, let's take a look then over at Andrew's deck. Again, a deck we've seen quite a few times. That's because he's doing a lot of winning, and that doesn't seem to be stopping at all. We got 4 copies of Unlicensed Hearse, 3 Anoint with Affliction, 3 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Cut Down, 2 Spell Pierce, and 1 Alcazat's Deepest Betrayal. What do you like in this Rakdos combo-y mid-range style setup?
Well, I think this is honestly, if you're Andrew, I don't know if it's just a world where you can't cut ornithopters and miscreants and mockingbirds and things of that nature, maybe you just can't. But if you can shave on that, that's where I'd look to shave my numbers. And then look, between spell pierces and disdainful strokes, you could probably be reasonably set up to deal with the transmogrify plan. You could even go to Aquazats or something if you wanted some additional late game resiliency type stuff here. But this is I think a real opportunity if you can just find 1 or 2 pieces of key interaction in the form of whether that's spell pierce catching a planeswalker or a transmogrify or a disdainful stroke catching a transmogrify or even just whatever the other big play is of the time. I think there's a lot to like here from Andrew's side.
Yeah, I love the call. If the counterspells stick out to me like a sore thumb, just because you really do. I mean, you want them. You want them in your deck. You want them to not answer Transmogrify like you called out, but any of the sweepers and stuff that might be coming out. That's where you get an upgrade over something like the removal spells, right? The removal spells do disrupt Transmogrifies. The counterspells get the other stuff too a lot of the time. And so I think those become more appealing. And then you already have plenty of things that disrupt the actual Transmogrify combo already. The Drowners, the Borrowers, all these things are pretty good against it. Maybe you can start to trim on some of the pushes and stuff like that, while leaving a lot of the core intact. Like you said, I mean, the ornithopters, they look goofy. How many can you trim? Probably not a lot. I think you do really want to keep the package of what your deck does intact.
Yeah, and one of the other things to keep in mind too is that Spell Pierce hits an early copy of Obnixilis, and those devil tokens have a lot of targets against the blue deck, right? Like there are a ton of X1s in that deck. We just saw where trying to just play normal combat against it can be rough. But if you're able to go 1-2 drop, a 1 drop on turn 2 and have Spell Pierce open for their turn 3 Obnixilis, for instance, there's a lot of tempo-y lines available to Andrew that I think he'll be looking for.
Yeah, I have to agree. And even though we really haven't seen a lot of the Ornithopter stuff from Andrew yet, I think that is an important part of the equation. And it's an important part of the equation for Charlie to actually have those removal spells. I mean, you just can't, your first play can't be Fable the Mirrorbreaker. Like that's unacceptable against this Ninja deck because you're just going to start getting beat up by a Planeswalker.
Yeah, I thought for sure that was like the precursor to a turn 4 Transmogrify where you even have extra mana. But instead it seemed like maybe it was just sort of a fair hand mix of lands and spells that just didn't really work out great for Charlie there. But it certainly doesn't help when your Transmogrifies don't work, right? Like if that's your deck's game plan and some amount of your draws are dedicated to drawing Transmogrify Enabler, or, heck, you might even unfortunately draw the Atraxa, right? Like, so when you're already giving some of that space to your deck, you're pricing that into your draws. So you can just end up with hands that just don't quite get there, like we kind of saw in that last one.
Well, down to a mulligan goes Charlie, and I mean, I like to see that. Especially, we just need more action here, and with Charlie on the play, Andrew up some cards, which I think is actually going to be a big deal because there's a lot of sweepers and things of that nature. A card advantage game could be something that matters at some point in this game, and so as these players kind of smiles and playing some high stakes, both of these players, Charlie already in our NRG championship for 2024. And I do not, let me check on Andrew. Is he already in? I don't think he is, but I will check really quickly. Yeah, he is not in. I wanted to make absolutely sure there. That
good opening for Charlie here. Turn 1 Thoughtseize. We do see a Spell Pierce. And away it goes.
yeah, that one's gotta go. And the rest of these spells notably don't cost 1. So just really disrupting the curve for this deck is a big deal. I mean, really the best draw for Andrew here is just a 1-mana spell. You find like a Miscreant, anything like that. Just something that allows you to curve out. I think that's ideal. And it looks like he did.
You nailed it.
Too easy. Too easy. Yeah, so sick. It's okay. Not the best one, but one of the ones for sure. Here comes a nice curve out for Charlie. Follow-up is the Reckoner Bankbuster. And now, thanks to this one-mana spell, we get the Moon Circuit Hacker. Yep, here it comes. Boop! Ninjutsu
It's a
new play card
nice
coming.
Nice opening for both players, to be honest. If you're Charlie, you feel okay about where you're at setting up for the long game. But if you're Andrew, you also feel like you're doing okay at that because you're up some cards.
I'm getting word that Andrew did compete in the 2019 championship. So I mean, been
there
a little
you go.
bit. I mean, quite a storied history with these energy championships. So he has played one before. Like I said, not in prime position. He's not qualified already and not really even prime position to qualify off points. Does need to take it all down, but up a game here in the semifinals on the menu potentially. And Charlie, of course, somebody will be seeing again basically no matter what. As Fable on turn 3 is available. Did make that happen. And Mutavault the follow-up. Those are the lands we knew about. Got a play of some kind for 2 mana. We bouncing something? Yep. Petty Theft the token. Clear
Good
the way.
play. Yeah, good play. It's going to deny Charlie both mana and creatures for the board. Like, all in all, just a nice play for Andrew. You have somewhat limited resources in that a few of your cards are, these X ones that are just attacking. So just being able to make a nice tempo play there is going to give him a good shot because, hey, and even gets to follow it up because there you go. He
Oh,
pokes
get to
Charlie
be
down to
mana
11.
efficient too?
Yeah.
My God, this is
Gets
so
to
easy.
copying the miscreant, draw an extra card because you now have a second miscreant in play.
I mean, these sequences from Andrew have just turn over turn been excellent. Just using all your mana, your interaction works, and then you get sugar for your trouble. Like we still have a Brazen Bar hanging out, like everything coming up, Andrew, turn over turn. That miscreant, I mean, I can't underrate how good of a draw that was, enabling the Moon Circuit Hacker. And now, Mockingbird is able to draw a card off of the miscreant because you get the second one. I mean, just crazy stuff across the board with these draws. And here's a Thoughtseize. Gets to go looking for a Transmogrify. Found it. Only lands left over for Charlie. So great timing on that after the Fabled discards.
Well, and what's interesting there is Charlie opted to only pitch one card to the Fable, which was a land, and then played land, and then still has land. So was obviously setting up for that Transmogrify, and then maybe drew one card he did not want, in fact, to draw. But and we saw him activate the Bankbuster, in fact. So he is digging for sweepers, I guess, now, because if he was digging for a Transmogrify play, that's not going to be available to him at this point. So looking pretty good for Andrew. If that 3 mana represents any kind of interaction, Charlie is almost out of life. Look at that. He's down to 7.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a Brazen Borrower as the floor. So even if a sweeper comes down, you get to start getting pressure going right away. And I mean, like I said, everything's kind of coming up you as we're going to activate Bankbuster on the main phase. I mean, and I really want to highlight too, while we're talking about how great these sequences, these carve outs have been, Gloom Lake Verge, a big part of Andrew's deck. All 4 copies that you can play available in a big part of his mana base here this weekend. Just having untapped lands of the colors you need, a big part of the mana base for this deck in Pioneer. No fetch lands or anything like that. As Torch the Tower is going to actually take down the Brazen Borrower, biggest points of power on the battlefield there. And finally, we're seeing some of this 1 mana removal spell we've seen Charlie have in abundance against some of the other creature decks. We have not, it's been all but absent in these games that we've seen.
Yeah, these games have definitely been a little odd draws for the Transmogrify deck here. And he's staring it down now, right? Here comes the attack. I mean, he did have a little bit
Here
of
comes 4 more
there,
points. You can block 2 of it if you want to trade off with the hacker, and I think you do.
You got to protect your life total.
You just need to protect this life total. It's so low.
You can cash in the Bankbuster for 1 more card. Oh, gosh. This will do it, though. Kaido again.
Boy. Kaido, that one's going to come into play. They're going to trade off, and 4 points of damage rumbling across. No creatures in play. Down to 3 life goes Charlie. And again, Kaido is the on-board insurance against Atraxa. It's like, all right, nice. Tapped. Like, then thanks for sharing. Tap target creature, 2 stun counters for that one. See you later, alligator. And you're allowed to just keep rumbling across. Now Transmogrify not even good enough.
Thoughtseize in hand too. I think I spotted for Andrew. So if he wants to follow, he's actually going to bin the Thoughtseize. Okay.
Sure. Yeah.
Finds a land, plays a land, and now passes with 2 mana open.
Not just a land, Mutavault. You have lethal in your mana base.
Good point.
If somehow everything on your board dies, you have 2 Mutavaults dialed up to just end the game right there. So I don't know what Charlie's outs looked here, but what a dominant performance from Andrew across these 2 games. Just mushing this top 8 and this top 4. I mean, just everything. Just absolutely dismantling everything that his opponents have put in front of him.
All right. I think Charlie sees the writing on the wall. We really didn't get to
Follow-up
watch him
Bank
do much.
Buster is not exciting. It does present a blocker.
Yeah, we just didn't get to watch him do much in these games, did we?
We picked up the Brazen Bar. No, we just had
There
the
you
Brazen
go.
Bar. Yes, that's more than good enough. And yeah, I think Charlie's just like, you got it, man. I'm not beating all that stuff. And yeah, Andrew victorious, a decisive 2-0 victory over Charlie there. And I mean, an impressive call, I'd say. I really liked Charlie's deck for the weekend. It looked like a good choice. He did a lot of winning through all of the Swiss, but I mean, that Ninja's deck. No, and I want to highlight Mikachu, right? Like that's a difference in another blue aggro deck. You know, you're talking about laying beatdowns and being backed up by counter spells. You know, he did a good job kind of hanging with the Merfolk deck and being able to fell that in order to punch his ticket to the top 8. But I do think that is one of the strategies he was going to struggle with, and did run into it in the form of Ninjas that was able to draw a little bit better through the games. And I mean, a very dominant victory there.
Yeah, not only able to draw better through the games, but also just able to draw more, right? Like when we did watch the Merfolk deck earlier, we talked about how it was lacking some of the card draw spells that it would typically have. Well, the Ninja deck isn't, right? Kaido can draw cards. The Hacker, the 1-drop can draw cards. You have more ways to just keep the card flow coming. The Miscreants as well, right? We watch Mockingbird turn on a Miscreant draw. So like it just, I mean, what we're talking 2-3 extra cards over the course of 5-6 turns. That's a big deal. And I think that's the real difference. That one of the reasons I think the Ninja deck has been so successful, because it presents that creature-based aggressive game plan, but it can also fuel its interaction in the sideboard.
Absolutely. And I mean, impressive. And, you know, a finals appearance rewarded. Let's go ahead and go live into our backup game. Now, this is the other side of the bracket that you saw. I believe it's Selesnya Company versus Phoenix. Starting game number 2. So we're going to be going in, like I said, live. We got Max Komanowski. We saw him win his quarterfinals game, and he is going to be against Pierre Smith, our number 1 overall seed there on Selesnya Company. So seen a little bit of Company through the weekend, and overall, Company has looked like it should be pretty well set up for Phoenix. Here, we're coming in, Max up a game. So, you know, Pierre very likely going to be on the play here, and we're going to see if he can be the one to take down our lone Phoenix remaining in our top 4 and face off Ninjas in the finals of this Pioneer Showdown. Not the contestants for the finals I think I was going to be ready for. If you told me Ninjas is going to be in the finals, I'm like, what are we doing here? What, you sure? What a Pioneer, right? Okay.
Well, we do have a classic Selesnya deck in these island sleeves. I love that. It looked pretty.
Yeah,
good.
You like that? You like that? Were you like a Goblin Guide playmat, red deck box, red sleeves, playing blue white control kind of guy?
I mean, that is the thing. I encountered that archetype early on in my Magic career, and it legitimately kind of blew my mind the first time, right?
Sure,
like,
yeah.
Like, oh, yeah.
I was shocked at how often it works the other way. How often we're talking about, you know, people that just play, you know, they're actually playing Bird with the Goblin Guide, red deck box, red sleeves. As far as resolving mulligans, we are in game 2. Let's take a quick look at the deck lists. And, you know, I don't know that we're going to have time to talk about the sideboards necessarily too much, but I do want to highlight there the Selesnya Company. You know, 3 Brutal Cathars, 2 Werewolves, Bodyguard, 2 Elite Spellbinders, 2 Portable Hold, 2 Unlicensed Hearst. That's a big one I think that we're going to see. Anointed Peacekeeper, Wandering Emperor, Guardian of Faith, Gideon Ally, Zendikar. So a kind of atypical sideboard. A lot of Planeswalkers here, kind of a go big strategy. I don't know if we're going to be employing that here, but I like the pivot. This is something we didn't really see too much on the Selesnya Company deck earlier. You know, and with us being on the play, you think we're going to be pivoting and seeing some big Selesnya Company here?
Well, it's interesting how they choose to want to play it, right? Because if you think that the Izzet deck is going to remove all your small creatures, well, for starters, one, that's not the end of the world, right? Because it means they're getting taxed by Thalia, or it means they're hitting your Enduring Innocence. That's not so bad. So if you can lean on something to shut down the graveyard, I think you can go big, right? You can play something like Gideon that just becomes incredibly difficult for the opponent to answer. The problem that, you know, obviously Pierre is going to be facing here is that we're starting off on a mulligan to 5. And
a mulligan to 5. He does not look happy about the 5. A lot of head shakes here. Now, we've seen Max Komanowski's deck before. We saw that in the previous round, so we're not going to necessarily take a look at that one. But we know he's got a lot of removal spells that he's going to be reaching for. Things like Anger of the Gods. You know, he's got the Beacon Bolts. He's got all those one-ofs that, you know, we know about. So quite a few removal spells. And yeah, Pierre does not seem thrilled.
Well, he's thinking about what to put on the bottom here, or possibly even if he needs to go to 4. It does look like he's thumbing through a Voice of Resurgence, which is one of the best cards you could have, especially on a mulligan, because of course, if an opponent messes up and casts a spell during your turn, it's going to trigger and make you a free token. But more than that, it typically will eat a removal spell and leave a token behind. So it does get you somewhat back when your opponent's playing a bunch of, one mana removal spells. So if you're Pierre, I imagine this is something like needing a land and calculating the odds of finding land on the top of your deck, something along those lines, versus the odds of going, looking at a fresh 7, but can you actually win the game on 4 cards?
Yeah, and I think he hates this hand, and I mean, it's tough when you're already at 5. Can you even win on a 4 on the play? I mean, you're just not really your deck's not really built to be aggressive. You're trying to grind on average, and already on a 5, you're already starting from behind in that axis. Now, there's no torch to the tower, so maybe the voice in Kovanowski's deck that I see, so that makes your voice of resurgence better, and you can start to recoup some card advantage there, and there's things of that nature you can do, but you're already starting on such a back foot that you need to win 2 games here. I mean, this is a really tough spot for Pierre.
I watched a player in the semifinals of a pro tour once back in the day. I think it might have been like Magic Origins or something. Keep either a 1-lander or even a 0-lander in the semifinals of a pro tour. And they said, well, I had like a 30% chance to draw a land, and if I did, I'd win. And I didn't. So I just played 1 land and then scooped my cards up on turn 3 or 4 or whatever, right? And it looks really bad, but
yeah,
the math is the math. And sometimes you have to be able to accept that this might be the right decision, but it might look really bad. And, lo and behold, there's Pierre Smith missing a second land drop.
Well, it's planes in the opt, and here comes Ledger Shredder, and now, I don't know how many turns you mentioned. I don't know how many turns you need.
You needed to get here by now, though. Maybe. Oh, okay.
No, we did find it. Turn 3. This is the turn. Let's see.
Something needs to go right for every hand, right? And now that it has gone right for Pierre, you missed 1 land drop, but maybe that's okay.
Okay, Thalia not too late to the party. I mean, Max spent his turn deploying a creature, which he would have done anyway, and now kind of tough to trigger the Ledger Shredder. So yeah, we got to start by killing the Thalia, and that's a fine place to start. And here's the follow-up: sleight of hand, and finds Artist's Talent.
Good for Pierre making that decision, because how bad would it look? How sad would it look? You're on camera and you go out in the semifinals because you just have 1 land in play, right? But it takes a lot of discipline to make that decision that he made.
Yeah, and I mean, right now, with not having lands means you have a lot of spells, so he should have things to do now that he did hit a land. Now, he might want more. This is a company deck, so we're trying to get to 4 most of the time, and Portable Hole is a good one.
This is really okay.
Yeah, all right, here comes Journey On. So that creates X maps tokens, where X is 1 plus the number of opponents who control an artifact. So I believe we're making a map token.
Yeah,
is what that does. And then, of course, Kellen Daring Traveler says whenever he attacks, you reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card with a mana value 3 or less, put it in your hand. So a little card advantage there. Otherwise, you may put it into your graveyard. So, yeah, there you go. Look at that one. The rare from Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Not a card we've seen too much of, in my opinion. I haven't played against this card too much.
That's a fun one, though, huh?
Seen some action here. Card advantage for sure.
Yeah, all of this is lining up for Pierre to have the best possible shot he could have in this game. Now, we'll see how many birds end up in play. But look, the first trigger off of the class didn't put a Arc-like Phoenix into the graveyard. That's a good
sign. Not means there's nothing in hand.
Yeah, still nothing. Like, if Max is just sitting on a bunch of lands in removal, maybe Pierre leans on his card advantage cards that he's found, or his Voice of Resurgence or something like that. We even now have a 3rd mana.
Hey, 3rd land. I don't know if it's on time and on schedule, but it's here. we got a Voice of Resurgence. All right, we got Enduring Innocence. All right, okay.
Well, these are engines now. Like, now we're talking about, this is a curiosity to, this is real. If you're Max, LOL, my opponent missed their land on turn 2. But no, this game is not in that situation now, because even if you shoot the Enduring Innocence, if Pierre starts drawing cards off of every creature he plays, and you can't put a bunch of Arc-like Phoenixes into play very quickly, this could slip away.
Yeah, and you can look at the Sheep Glimmer, enchantment creature rare from Duskmourn, making a lot of waves. Card got pretty expensive. Actually, this is one of the few cards actually pre-ordered from Duskmourn. I was like, this thing's nice. I want me some of these things. And
the whole cycle is amazing.
Yeah, they are cool cards, and actually pretty good in this matchup too, right? A little bit of extra utility there. And again,
Hmm.
there's no Torch the Towers involved in Max Komanowski's deck, and an intentional choice for sure, but has cost. And creatures that do things when they die is kind of the cost. And this Leslie Company deck has an abundance of them. Here comes Consider, 2 Artist Talents triggers. That includes 1 Arclight Phoenix, and the second one's a land. But I mean,
Yeah.
we're just getting so much churn that we're not too far away from basically Max having access to whatever he wants in his
No,
deck.
yeah, the
Thanks to
jig
all
is
this stuff.
up. The jig is up for sure because Max is now he was dirtling for a few turns, but now he's unlocked it. The talents are rolling, and look, if you're Pierre, actually, is it going to work out for you? There's, I think, just the one bird in the yard right now.
You
You're
can
going to have a
see
window,
Andrew
which is
there
more than
in
you
the
can ask
back.
for him. Like you mulled to 5, you missed your second land drop. This is about as the best position you could ask to be in, and turn 5.
Yeah, these are good cards, but
yeah,
it's a little too late, I think.
You're taking your first damage of the game. You have a lifelink creature in play. Maybe you think you can dig out of it, but the problem is now Max is going to untap with, you said it, access to essentially the ability to churn through all of his deck with these double talents in play.
Here comes a 4-point life steal. Like I said, Andrew, your finalist with Demir Ninjas watching on as this resolves. Max Komanowski, of course, up a game already, 1 game away from a spot in the finals and a chance to make the last possible ticket to ride for the 2024 championship. As Pierre, like I said, stumbling here a little bit, but Enduring Innocence can start to fix the cards problem. Kellen can help with that as well. Maybe map token even involved. Like, we have tools to get some cards going, but it might be a little late as passing here with all this stuff. I mean, I'm sure Max is already thinking flash creature. It's just pretty loud declaration that you have like something like an Aven Interrupter, which are a 4 of course, in this
He's
deck.
got something.
Yeah, something's up. But Max, I mean, having so much mana, Artist Talents gives you such a choice in the cards you want.
Gosh.
And here comes Prof's Memory. Oh, boy.
This one could get big. It's going to be a big bird pretty soon.
Yeah, I think we saw Pierre very quickly reach for the mana, but is actually going to wait for the Artist Talent triggers to resolve first. And then I think we're going to go after this Memory, potentially. Yeah, here we go. Tapping stuff. And here comes Aven Interrupter. Boop.
All right.
Now that is plotted.
Okay, so Pierre had a play, adds to the board.
Draws a card.
Did we say if we catch it, we should draw a card off of the Enduring Innocence?
Yeah, you already drew a card there. And we get a look at the Aven Interrupter, rare from Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Little flash flying white creature. Kind of gets to do the exile thing. Exile target spell, it becomes plotted. And cards you cast from graveyards and from exile cost 2 more. So that can matter against things like adventure cards and such. But we just have the second prof. So how about that?
Second plot.
Yeah. How about dim apples? And of course, draws a card, but also lets you churn more. And there goes another bird. And I mean, once again, there's access to nearly your entire library. The prof's going to grow the Arclight Phoenix. So a lot of pressure on Pierre to start making a lot of things happen. Just doesn't have a lot of mana to make things happen with. As there goes the Aven Interrupter.
Yeah, how good have the talents been, right? The class.
What is that card, man? Why is that thing so good? I just like you just get to keep rummaging. It's like everything that they print these days is you can only do this once per turn. You can only do this if it's a full moon and you're wearing a hat. Like they have all these restrictions that just make their cards look so inelegant and unfun. And now they were just like, for this thing, I don't know, 2 mana, whatever. What's the worst thing gonna happen? Just rummage all the time. And we'll put more text on it too. You're low on mana, don't worry.
This Eidetic, he's just picking them up. The Eidetic memory.
Yeah, Pierre has seen enough. This is a 2-turn clock. We're done here. All packed up. So your finals here is now set. Max Komanowski, a clean, again, dominant victory. So really, I mean, both of the players in our finals have had dominant runs through our top 8. So before we break to the finals, and we're going to watch Ninjas versus Phoenix in the finals, have to shout out Ultimate Guard for sponsoring this series. Really, they make some of the best products in the market, if not the best, from, sleeves, deck boxes, all that stuff. I use their deck boxes all the time. I use their sleeves whenever I can. Like, they are really a bastion, I'd say, of products for the Magic community. And it's really one of those products that you're happy to have endorse you, because I use their stuff all the time, and that's the best thing. Whenever it's a product you believe in, it's a product you use all the time. It's not like this is soulless shilling. This is something that we're really happy to work with them. We're proud to support them, and we're proud to have them support us. So thank you to Ultimate Guard sponsoring the series. And of course, we'll be taking a quick break here in our 5K showdown. All of you here don't want to miss that action. Make sure you're slamming that follow button. You're subscribing if you don't want to have those ads interrupting the game and any of the action. Make sure you do some of that. We're going to take a very, very quick break, and we'll be back with the finals here very shortly. Don't go anywhere.